The Last of Us Part 2 is not a game one would describe as a gentle experience. Nevertheless, it reintroduces itself gently with a familiar face and a familiar voice at a familiar point in time. That is with Joel, right after the conclusion of the first game, preceding the promised time skip and promised protagonist perspective shift from the game's marketing. The prologue of The Last of Us Part 2 follows Joel as we see him in the immediate aftermath of getting back to Jackson after the conclusion of the first game. In so, we open the game on the shot of a moth on the hilt of a guitar, a man holding it, who we likely assume to be Joel. But the tension is drawn out by an exhale before we hear him proper. Playing as Joel, I know I appreciated this little subversion at a minute past midnight on June 19th, 2020. Sitting there in the wee hours of release day morning was perhaps the most excited I've ever been for any type of media release in my life. The sequel to, at that point, and not for much longer, my favorite video game of all time. I'm sure like many other fans, that same morning, I got the soy chills just from the logos and the sound effects preceding all this. Those Last of Us sounding somber backing noises. The similar but iterative loading screen. That morning I sat there, engrossed in it all. As the game finally begins, after all that wait, after all that build-up, I was exhaling with Joel here, warily readying to begin. Anticipation boiling beyond belief. The leniency to the anticipatory nerves that the game allows here is a brilliant piece of execution, I think. For the players like me, as invested as we are/were, the game knows it has you by the balls. So it'll just tease out whether or not the opening shot is of Joel. And it'll just tease out seeing his face for the first time. And it'll just tease out the reveal of who he's talking to in this scene. The tension, the intrigue, the expectation, building with every shy step and every shadowy movement. The extra textual extras here only further foment the feelings. A Naughty Dog game release feels like an event. It's rarer than the Olympics at this point. Savoring it, digesting it slowly, is necessary. And they fucking know it. The arrogance, constantly, throughout playing the game that first time, was indecent. I felt like the game knew exactly how to execute on my emotionality, my interest, my anticipation, beat by beat, and it did it all perfectly. It knew when to hold, it knew when to fire, and fire it does. Not just bombastically as it will later, but softly even in these early introductory moments. There are a lot of moments in the introduction where the game leniently lets you sit with the seemingly unbelievable fact that you are finally playing this game. That it does in fact exist. From the soft recap opening scene with Tommy that makes sure you're caught up and you know exactly where we're picking up from, to the figuratively silent ride back to Jackson as Joel following it, to Joel and Ellie's first new scene together. It all lets you stew in it, methodically, before it executes. Even now, recalling these moments of disbelief and amazement at what was happening, even a long year later, 2, 3, 4, 5, nearly 6 years later, still gets me. My time with this game the first time was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, knowing you are experiencing something that will forever after be a favorite. I love this game. I loved everything about it, from its opening utterance to its final sullen walk. And I loved it equally the whole way through, to the point where it sits firmly among the gravitas of my favorite pieces of media ever, circling with Mad Men and Evangelion and Berserk, and it ain't in fourth. My adulation will grow more evident, and to some of you, more annoying as we progress. The first hurdle a game titled The Last of Us Part 2 has to reckon with is needing to deal with the aftermath of the ending of the first game. A direct sequel necessitates a disambiguation of the first game's very famous, very ambiguous ending, probably in its introduction. A lot of the power of the first game's incredible ending is in that ambiguity. Joel does something drastic, and the short final section tracking back to Jackson is the only time we are given to address both the potentially far-reaching and interpersonal consequences of that decision. At the apex of that trek back, Ellie questions Joel's lie, he promises her, and she says okay. And you are left with all that implies. I remember experiencing that moment for the first time, not realizing that it was the end of the story. The music cueing the way it does underneath the scene, building to the concluding okay, the sudden crescendoing into the credits. I was in disbelief. In that moment, I realized The Last of Us was now my favorite game. Poor Pokemon Emerald had fallen to the wayside. I knew I liked it a lot while playing it, but I had never really played a game like it. But when the okay happened and the music cued and the credits came, I was overcome and instantly felt like nothing else came close. That no other game had made me feel that way. The unexpected conclusion, the ambiguity in what that okay means, the mixed emotions and assumptions for the future it fills you with. What power, what implication, all that meaning left hanging, left for you to fiddle with and idle on forever. There's so much to think about coming out of that ending, out of that final moment. All this is to say, a sequel to The Last of Us risks ruining that very special moment. An aspect of it, the ambiguity of it, will alter forever after we find out what happens next, after there is an answer. The ambiguity of the first game did not demand a sequel. The not knowing was the ending in a way. The question of does she believe him, and the implications of the more obvious answer, probably not, was quintessential in the power of that ending. It tests your faith in this relationship you've spent the entire game falling in love with. Imagining if Joel had ruined it or not, if he had done the right thing, stewing in whether she knows he's lying, and if the truth comes to light, if they could overcome it. These questions now need answering to continue the story, and the disambiguation of all this needs to be handled warily. You're competing with everybody's imagination, answering questions people have already answered for themselves in different ways. You're playing with fire, with one of gaming's most iconic endings. It's a formidable adversary. The disambiguation better be good to justify the tampering. This is another core tension the game plays with brilliantly in its introduction, I think. Again, it goes about things methodically. We need to see the consequences of Joel's actions. So immediately, more than the larger questions, the game opts to answer the more imminent ones that we are also curious about first, and imply the bigger ones in character behavior, which will be further explored later on. Sequels are in the fortunate position to have inherent intrigue built into them. The audience is returning, not visiting for the first time. They're familiar with the world and characters, and they are already invested. So there's no need to rush, or to prove yourself out of the gate. In so, the game is allowed to tackle this disambiguation slowly. There is a tension and an excitement to be executed upon in just seeing these characters again, in just catching up. In the same way the first episode of a new season of a long-running show is exciting. The disambiguation element only adds additional inherent intrigue here. In the introduction of the game, we first focus on what Joel immediately does when getting back, on what Ellie immediately is doing, and in these moments tease at the tensions around what Ellie believes, and whether or not she is going to follow up on her suspicions about Joel, but don't fully answer them. The hunger for the disambiguation is not quenched entirely in the introduction. It is teased at. There is an answer implied, and the game then transitions into new story elements, skipping forward in time, introducing you to new characters and a seemingly new conflict. But this is all to create a false sense of security. The disambiguation will be returned to later, and answered for fully in flashbacks, and will inform all of Ellie's major character decisions through being her primary motivation. This is not a disambiguation taken lightly. It is not something addressed at the beginning to be skipped over for a new plot. It is the bedrock of the whole game, and the gentle way the game pretends to address it before recontextualizing itself later is great execution. It is one of the many key aspects that make the wary tenderness of Joel and Ellie's introductory scenes in The Last of Us Part 2 so strong and effective.
I don't know what happened. I was supposed to take her to the Fireflies and walk away.
The opening of The Last of Us Part 2 is Joel retelling the events of the last game's ending to Tommy. It's a confession of sorts. This scene most fundamentally functions as a recap for any wandering souls who may have stumbled in here unprepared. But in making this scene diegetic, by having this be a conversation that's actually happening within the story, between the brothers, this scene is allowed to be so much more. Joel is characterized unlike we've ever seen him in this opening scene. In his monologue, his voice is thin, his eyes are down, he's fidgeting with a guitar, hiding behind it and all it represents. His body language is closed off, his thoughts are meandering and unsure, scattered like he's avoiding getting to the point because he's scared of what he has to say and what his audience might think. Joel's vulnerable here, and it's hard for him to be vulnerable, even in front of his own brother. Frankly, it's interesting that he's doing it at all. In the first game, when he came to his brother to lean on their relationship and ask something of him, he was demanding and stern, cruel even. He wanted to strong-arm and intimidate Tommy into seeing his side. This is not his tact here. This is not that man. Whatever happened at the end of the first game has changed Joel. Even the version of him in the final scene of that game and the version of him that appears in this scene are quite different. This something he did has been eating away at him during the short time he's been back in Jackson. Joel is trepidatious here. He's unsure how Tommy will take all this. He doesn't know if what he's done can be forgiven. Maybe he doesn't think he's worthy of forgiveness from Tommy or Ellie. More than anything, his biggest fear remains losing Ellie. The lie he's told her, the truth he's telling Tommy. If any of it gets back to her, it could put all that in danger. Joel's attempt to save their relationship, to save her, may have broken their relationship. Broken her forever. Fleshing out Joel's status with Tommy and Ellie directly following the events of the first game is, after all, what this entire pre-time skip prologue section is all about.
You go halfway across the country with someone.
Joel stresses the lack of choice he had to get attached to Ellie. It's bound to happen. He had to do it. The attempts to start with justifying their relationship, what doesn't really need to be justified, reflects his insecurity in how what he has to say is going to come off to Tommy. Yet Tommy is the only person in the world that has a hope in hell of understanding what all this means to Joel. He was there when Joel's world ended, when he broke. Tommy had to deal with the aftermath. He understood what finding Ellie meant to Joel, and he saw how it put him back together, how it saved his brother.
She needed her immunity to mean something. Maybe I was starting to buy into that old cure business. Maybe I just wanted to do right by her.
Joel did it for her. It was important to her, saving the world. Maybe by being around her and healing, he was becoming more optimistic. Maybe he was becoming more open to the idea of a cure. With Tess, he had no time for it. Maybe now he has a reason to invest in the future of the world. And then again, maybe it was just all about her. When Joel goes to say cure business, he hesitates. When he does get it out, his voice shakes. It is Troy Baker playing Joel unlike he's ever played Joel. This little idiosyncratic detail epitomizes the difference in the portrayal here, and throughout the game, and not just in the acting department. Joel has changed. This continues into the Ellie scene also. That particular phrase, cure business, is also him verbally wrestling with what he's done, which is rob the world of a cure. And Ellie, from what we just established, he understands to be what she wants. For his own cause. For his own salvation. They had it. A cure. A real cure. What he did next took that away from the world. Probably forever. There's a monumentality to that. To his sin. And it shakes him.
And then we made it. We found the firefight. Because of her, they were actually going to make a cure. The only catch, it would kill her.
This is where it's revealed that Joel has been speaking with Tommy during the scene. There's attention to the who before it's revealed, but once it's revealed, you understand that there really was only ever one possible answer, for all those reasons we talked about earlier. With Tommy's introduction, the intrigue of the scene shifts. We've been recapping and recharacterizing Joel in interesting and new ways so far, but now there's a tension. Tommy is here. He is being told something very heavy. And now the intrigue of the scene lives in how Tommy is going to react to this information.
Jesus Christ, Joel. What do you do?
It's a very cold response from Tommy. Tommy is a fleshed out enough character from the first game for us to understand his internal conflict here. Joel is his brother, who he has a strained but deep connection with. Sarah was his niece. He understands what Joel went through. He saw what it all did to his brother. He understands why Ellie in turn would mean so much to him, and why it would be something important for him to protect. On the other hand, Tommy is also a former Firefly, meaning at some point he was a sucker for a grander purpose. He wanted to fight to save the world. How is he going to take Joel slaughtering a group of people he used to be a part of, who used to think and be like him, all for this relationship, for himself? Tommy did also stop being a Firefly at some point, so perhaps he won't care. Tommy met Ellie in the first game. I'm sure he likes her a little, but Tommy also has a new family in his wife Maria, and is a leader of the Jackson community, who owes a responsibility to his people, who he cares about, who are his new cause, all of whom's lives, whether they knew it or not, would have been greatly improved if not for Joel's selfish actions, which has doomed them to live in this torn apart and tormented world forever. How ethically does Tommy feel generally about the decision to doom the whole world for the sake of a single girl? Joel's lack of moral character and selfishness has driven a wedge between them before. Maybe it could again. It is fascinating how much of this internal conflict we understand to be going on with Tommy, yet how quickly we rush against him here. It's just one line. That Jesus Christ, Joel, and the slightly judgmental sounding "what did you do" position you so immediately on Joel's side, it's insane. That turn, it's fiercely defensive and it's vengeful. There's a snap to "how dare you judge him. You don't understand what he's been through," from you as an audience member. And even more fascinating is the fact that you had the same judgments Tommy does initially. Tommy, upon learning what happened, is a perfect surrogate for what I think the audience went through as they first watched the ending of the first game. There's an initial Jesus Christ Joel at how far Joel goes. There's a little bit of judgment, a little bit of internal conflict. But then ultimately you allow your bias towards Joel and your understanding for what he's been through and what this all means to him take over. You hate Tommy for a second here. This moment with Tommy isn't even conflict, it's perceived conflict, the fear of aggression. Yet you snap to Joel's defense as Joel's strongest soldier, even though Tommy has the exact same reaction you had. You might allow yourself in your position of supposed total understanding to judge Joel, but no one else is gonna do it. You won't allow it. This is one of the many tricks the game pulls with positioning. This is not dissimilar to Ellie and Abby's overall relationship. Abby is mad at Joel for killing the Fireflies. Ellie is mad at Joel for killing the Fireflies. But Ellie immediately and violently jumps to Joel's defense when someone else dare to be mad at Joel for what he's done, and for coming between her and her want to slowly work through her anger towards him. Only I can judge him. You can't judge him. That immediate switch against Tommy, for really doing nothing wrong, but for not completely aligning with you, as you are right now, is the emotional core of what the game is all about. How quick you are to feel, and lash out, and throw everything else away. You are not above them, these feelings, even if you might understand them, even if you've heard this story a million times. Everybody's heard the boy who cries wolf. Everyone still lies. It's just a part of human nature. To be angry, to be quick to it, to recognize a lack of understanding, and to judge someone for it. After taking in some partial judgment from Tommy, it is telling how Joel responds to his question.
What do you do?
I saved her.
As he says it for the first time in the scene, he looks up to face Tommy, and the world, and whoever. This is the one part of the story he has absolute conviction in. In fact, if the Lord gave him another chance, he'd do it all over again. He wouldn't change a thing. For a confessional scene, even by the end, Joel is not playing. Tommy understands what that means. But Joel never says, "I killed them all and doomed us all to get her out of there." He's allowed to frame it the way he sees it. He himself is defensive about the principle of what he's done. Joel blows on the guitar and exhales as he's finished talking. There's relief there. Perhaps the hardest part is over. Now it's up to Tommy.
Goddamn. That's some. That's a lot. What does Ellie know?
Tommy is still processing. He asks what Ellie knows. Is it so he and Joel can be on the same page and covering for his lie?
I told her they just ran some tests. I told her her immunity meant nothing.
We get this beautiful recreation of the final okay from the end of the first game, flexing the new graphical muscle that's quickly becoming undeniable through this whole opening sequence. The strings play underneath as part of the recreation and make you feel all those monumental feelings again.
And she believed you?
I didn't say otherwise.
We should head back.
Tommy abruptly, after hearing everything, says that they should head back right away, and your stomach sinks. This is not the reaction we wanted. There's another visible resigned look from Joel here as he gets up to leave with him. He's helpless now. He's confessed. All he can do is wait for judgment. But Tommy wants to go back quickly. That doesn't bode well. Does Tommy want to head back so quickly because he wants to get away from Joel? Because he already knows what he's going to do? Expose him to everybody? Is he going to let the secret out? Does he just want to confide with Maria? Is that the worst thing? Maybe he's even afraid to be alone with Joel, knowing what he's capable of, especially when Ellie's at stake. That resigned feeling, that uneasiness on Joel's face, it's like when you confide in somebody at a party or somewhere, and the talk ends with you can't tell anybody. You might have felt great while telling them. You might have felt like you were the only two people in the world. But as that person walks away, the world is whole again, and you realize you were completely at somebody else's mercy. They talk with other people. You just know they're talking about exactly what you just said. Maybe that person glances back at you, and you wonder if trust ever really existed in this world, and spend time worrying about unaligned incentives. Your stomach sinks. You are left feeling that feeling for Joel here, contemplating many things on the slow but direct ride back to Jackson the two share. You marinate on what you've just heard, the fact that you're playing this game, and whether or not you trust in Tommy. All while Tommy ruminates on what he's just heard, and is deeply internally conflicted. It's a great opening sequence. Then you ride up to the gate. They ride through and dismount, and initially, suspicion and doubt only seem to worsen.
Come on. It's okay. I got him. You go on.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right.
Joel says helplessly. He's about to watch Tommy walk away and talk to someone else, having said nothing about what he's just heard, leaving everything unaddressed and Joel alone with only his worries. You can feel the tension of the unsaid. Your heart continues dropping for Joel, whether it's right to or not. But then...
About what we were talking about earlier. Can't say I'd have done different. I'll take it to the grave if I have to.
That moment when they meet each other's eyes and it registers to us and them that Tommy is on our side, that we are in this together, is an incredible moment of elation and relief. And it makes you love Tommy more than you ever have previously. Or maybe it just helps you realize how much you've always appreciated him. No matter the potential moral implications or the personal ramifications, that's his goddamn brother. Joel, then contented, walks off down the street as the camera pulls away, giving us a wide shot of a man still very alone, but walking a little taller than a few seconds earlier. It's a more familiar sight. We get directorial creditation, and then the scene ends. Despite understanding and maybe even thinking Joel did wrong at the end of the first game, part of the prologue of this game is you hating it when people besides yourself judge Joel. This ends up also mirroring Ellie's feelings throughout the whole game, but we don't understand this until much later. Ellie was mad at Joel for his choices. She destroyed their relationship because of it. But when someone else was mad at Joel, she would not allow it. Even if part of her could understand it. It didn't matter because of her partiality. This game is very much about positioning, about how emotions and narratives position you to feel and act certain ways, in spite of a larger understanding and probably knowing better. This scene, disguised and utilized as a soft recap introduction to the game, both pushes the plot forward and characterizes both Joel and Tommy in new and endearing ways, attaching you more to Tommy than you ever have been before. It demonstrates the limited passage of time. It allows you to play as Joel for one last time. The scene also introduces you to the lasting motif of the whole game. Finally, its wariness is comforting and is core to the overall gentle reintroduction of The Last of Us Part 2. Stop right there, Last of Us fans. We've got our members and patrons to thank. That'd be Jockey Bacon, Cruel Beauty, Mr. Gems, and that no-good Abby hater Elite RE. He probably likes Mel or something. Yuck. There's another foundational element to the introductory stages of this game that are starting to loom in the story at this point, and that's the general sense of coming doom. I think if you asked anyone while they were playing the first game before they had finished it, are one of the two main characters gonna die? Most would have probably said yes. That's the type of story this is. It probably ends tragically. Nonetheless, despite large death fakeouts for each, when the credits roll, somehow they both make it through it alive. There was a relief in that. A thank God we made it in that. But upon the announcement of a sequel, well, what are the chances we'll make it through again? That tension was always going to be at the heart of the game, even if there were no corroborating factors that telegraphed a coming doom. But there was. The marketing for the game played into a looming doom from the get-go. From the trailers and things said by Neil Druckmann, it was evident that something bad was going to happen early in this game. The immediate popular understanding after that first trailer was that Joel was going to die and the game was going to be about Ellie's revenge quest. Later trailers tried to pivot away from this, introducing Dina as a possible candidate for igniting Ellie's revenge. Upon actually starting up the game, the tone of the beginning, the foreboding title screen, the dark imagery, all further play into this sense of coming doom. This opening scene with Tommy, making him such a focus, making you like him more than you ever have, now makes him a candidate for the inciting incident. He would be the safe option, and would be able to motivate a revenge quest that Ellie and Joel could go on together. I'll take it to the grave if I have to, is the death flag of a lifetime. Maybe Joel will make it. Naughty Dog does have a track record of never following through with the death of a main character, and if you pay attention to the credits playing throughout this very scene, you'll see that Troy Baker, along with Ashley Johnson and some other girl, are given starring credits. The game plays with all this in this opening scene. It is yet another layer at play. The coming doom looms over the beginning of the game, and the game is constantly making you wonder which direction it is going to go in. After all, unpredictability is at the heart of what makes this game such a memorable experience. Sadly for us, The Last of Us Part 2 is not a game that takes safe options. If we're gonna motivate a revenge quest, we're gonna motivate a revenge quest. And for this game to exist, Joel kinda has to die. And when that doom comes, it ends up being what you feared and more. The Joel and Ellie scene opens on an establishing shot of Ellie's little shed in Joel's backyard, as Through the Valley by Sean James plays audibly through her Walkman headphones. You might recognize it as the song Ellie sang in the first ever reveal trailer for the game. Joel even waltzes up to Ellie the same way he waltzes through the house in that first trailer. Having watched that trailer a million times in the 4 years it took for this game to come out, this was quite the fan service callback for me on release night.
Jesus. Almost gave me a heart attack.
I tried knocking, but...
Hey.
Hey,
What's up, Joel?
just checking in. Folks are, talking about how impressed they are with you and how well you're helping out.
It's good.
Yeah. Tommy and I went out riding the other day, and He told me a joke, and I thought about you. It's, oh, shoot, no, I forgot it. Something about a clock. How do you...
Joel, it's pretty late and I gotta get up in a few hours.
Yeah.
The beginning of this scene is very uncomfortable. Joel and Ellie's witty back and forth from the first game has gone completely wooden here. Notably, most of the awkward energy is coming from Ellie. There's clearly something bothering her, and we can infer what that something is. Her suspicions about Joel's lie have lingered. This scene pulls from a lot of innocent father-teenage daughter awkward relationship tropes you'd see in other media. Joel enters the scene knocking on Ellie's door only to get no response because her music is up too loud. Joel playfully kicks her chair to eventually get her attention in a very cool dad manner. He sacrosaintly tells her how uniquely great everyone thinks she is, bragging with absolutely no compromise or self-awareness as a father would. He even attempts to tell a dad joke, though he fumbles it. In this scene, however, there is another layer to these innocent elements. Usually these tropes are used to portray a natural distance being created between a pubescent teenager and the aging father. Teenagers are moody and are usually annoyed by their parents. That normal growing distance is not the reason for the distance between these two characters in this instance, however. It is not the natural difficulties of growing up, but Joel's lie that is creating distance between them, as well as Ellie's fermenting certainty that that's what he did. Joel knows this too. He's nervous about this interaction also, because he knows she suspects him. That's why he flummoxes the joke at the end there, as he's realizing Ellie is trying to distance herself from him. When she's surprised by Joel at the beginning, it's kind of a bad shock. She doesn't want him there right now. She immediately covers her journal and closes off her body language. She really doesn't want to talk to him right now. Perhaps it's easier to ignore her suspicions when he's away from her. I don't think she wants to be forced into a confrontation like at the end of the first game. Joel being here makes the former more difficult and the latter more likely. She then tries to end the interaction by verbalizing her want for him to leave by saying she's really got an early morning tomorrow.
How do you...
Joel, it's pretty late and I gotta get up in a few hours.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get out of your hair. Just, I want to show you something. Just give me 1 second.
What's this?
Some folks call this thing here a guitar.
Funny.
You want to hear something?
Okay.
Okay. Promise me that you won't laugh.
I won't laugh. I won't.
I'm trusting you. If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself. Try and sometimes you'll succeed to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts I've no need for any more, 'cause I believe, and I believe 'cause I can see our future days, days of you and me. There you go.
Well, that didn't suck.
I'll take what I can get.
Joel didn't come to this interaction without a plan. He didn't come here empty-handed. The guitar he was tinkering with and hiding behind in the opening scene is a gift for Ellie. Introducing the guitar to this interaction does cut through a lot of the awkwardness present at the beginning. Like with the Tommy scene earlier, Joel is very different in this scene than he was in the previous game. He sings for her, which is something he refused to do vehemently in the last game, despite her insistence. He is vulnerable and more open in this scene, more directly complimentary. The sarcasm and banter that was at the heart of most of their relationship in the first game does rear its head towards the end of this section of the scene, but it is more subdued than the way it was depicted in the first game. It's less innocent. You can see the vulnerability work on Ellie in real time with the brilliant horizontal moving shot that initially frames Ellie over Joel's left shoulder, moving to eventually frame her over his right. She goes from hesitant, suspicious, guarded, willing to hear him out but trepidatious, to when she emerges on the other side, being bare and engaged and taken by the moment. Her hand has dropped from her mouth now, resting on her chin, and she is enraptured by their relationship again. Despite her suspicion, there is a very real, very sentimental bond she has with this man. He's virtually the only person she has at this point. Everyone that she's ever cared for has either died or left. Everyone except for him. Him being vulnerable in front of her means something to her. The song, very obviously reciprocating those feelings, means something to her. This allows her to embrace repression in this moment, to ignore her suspicions and prioritize the benefits of this relationship. His plan, the big gesture, has worked. She's going to allow him back in. And when her hand returns to her mouth, her expression has changed completely. The camera goes to Joel. Like before, when he's vulnerable, his eyes stay down. Ellie's first line after the performance is done is, "Well, that didn't suck." The awkwardness has been killed, and the chemistry is back.
I'll take what I can get. She's yours.
No. No. I don't know the first thing about
I
this.
promise that I teach you how to play.
You did.
So what do you say, tomorrow night? First lesson?
Deal.
Okay. Okay.
Do you remember the joke?
What is the downside to eating a clock? It's time-consuming.
That's so dumb.
Yeah. Good night, kiddo.
In this final section of the scene, we see Ellie come back to Earth a little bit, and her suspicions come back in a multitude of indirect ways. Early in that section of the scene, Joel formally gifts the guitar to Ellie, of course, and says he's going to teach her how to play. He promised. And to that, Ellie says, "You did," a little solemnly. He also promised her something else. There's no way in that moment Ellie's mind didn't go to the lie as soon as he said that. And the more distance that's put between them and Joel's display here will probably only further allow room for Ellie's suspicions to climb back in. Despite that tiny little bump, the scene seems primed to end entirely happily as Joel goes to leave. But then Ellie confronts him as directly as she's willing to in this moment, when she asks him if he remembers the joke. In the eye of the scene, it's easy to forget the awkward beginnings of the scene, and Joel's attempt to recall a joke, but now it's wriggled back to the surface. Ellie suspects that maybe there never was a joke, and that this was all just an excuse, a lie, to get to his display. This all obviously paralleling getting lost in the scene and wanting to forget about his lie, but suspicions wriggling back to the surface. It shows that still, despite the love they evidently share, Ellie doesn't entirely trust Joel. Surprisingly enough, there was a joke. Joel was just nervous earlier. And that fact further puts Ellie at ease and no doubt makes the momentary repression of her suspicions easier. Joel then says goodnight, very pleased with how the whole interaction went, and closes the door behind him. But before we cut away to end the scene, the shot lingers on Ellie a little while she's alone. The warm goodbye expression Joel saw as he left sharpens on her face, as decompression sets in and no doubt slight suspicion settles back in. Her eyes then dart downwards in contemplation, but in her arms is the guitar and all it represents. She softens again, perhaps won over, repressing those suspicions. There's an ominous strum, and the scene ends. We know, of course, that this repression doesn't last forever, nor could it. Ellie here was won over by Joel, but in the flashbacks that follow, we see the haphazardness of repressing the truth. We know for a time Ellie settled into repressing her suspicions. The next time we see her chronologically, their relationship seems to be great. This is as they are celebrating Ellie's birthday with their trip to the museum. Something shifts at the end of the scene though. This whole portion of the game is structured the opposite of our opening scene, where here we started off bleak and full of suspicion and became happier. The museum section starts off happy and descends into bleakness and suspicion, as at the end, Ellie finds graffiti accusing the Fireflies of being liars and is taken aback, no doubt forced to confront her suspicions again. Joel, when he finds her, doesn't say anything and hurries her away. This seems to have set something off inside Ellie because the next flashback we get, she is hunting with Tommy instead. And through their dialogue, it's evident she's not been interacting with Joel very much recently, which was her first plan in our scene before he brought in the guitar. Joel then insists on going with Ellie on a fetch quest for new strings for the guitar as an attempt to reconnect. His first plan again, though this time it doesn't work as well. Their interactions are more wooden again throughout the mission, and the father-teenage-daughter tropes are also back, making the distance more evident. At the end, upon being confronted with a couple that died very similarly to the way Ellie and Riley were meant to die, a couple that could have been saved if a cure existed in this world, Ellie confronts Joel directly, and he lies again, and Ellie is still clearly unsatisfied. This ends up erupting into Ellie journeying back to the Salt Lake City hospital herself and uncovering the truth, and fully cutting Joel off. Until the night before he was killed, of course. Repression was never something that was going to work forever. Leaving it unaddressed was just kicking the can down the road. In that first scene, Joel told Tommy the truth and got undying loyalty. But in the second scene, continued to lie to Ellie, and it ended up nearly ruining their relationship for good, and did rob them of years they could have had together. And that final fact may have ruined Ellie forever. The repression used to make her suspicions jump out of nowhere, in her quiet moments, and attack her. But now it's the PTSD of what she's seen and been through that lashes out at her and attacks her out of nowhere. And Joel's lie is in a way responsible for causing all that, for motivating those actions. That last strum represents coming doom, not just for the machinations of the plot and Joel's eventual death, but also for their relationship, in the decisions the two of them make in that scene. The disambiguation of the first game's ending is not handled in the opening scenes of the second game to be moved on from, repressed, and thrown to the side. The final scene following up on the outcome of that disambiguation occurs only moments before the second game's credits roll, and recontextualizes the whole story and Ellie entirely as a character, explaining an even more deep-seated bitterness to everything that has happened so far. But unpacking that in totality is a larger story for another day. This blame-heavy affect, the tone in which I've written most of this video, this blaming of Joel totally for the bigger picture, isn't truly representative of the takeaway you have from the Joel and Ellie relationship. This relationship is not entirely a tragedy, even though it's full of it. When I think back on it, I don't think of it in that manner, because those warm moments do permeate as much as the poison, which again brings us back to positioning. You still don't hate Joel for everything in the end. You don't hate Ellie for everything. You just kinda want them to get through, to survive. In that first scene between them, you are more pulling for the relationship more than you're pulling for the truth. You're pulling for the relationship you spent the whole first game falling in love with, rather than either individual actor. This is fascinating positioning by the game. Its lack of an interest in positioning you on the side. There's a delicacy to the scene, a wary tenderness if you will, and a want for their relationship to live on. This same principle applies even after Joel is dead. You still hope for the warmness and love of their relationship to survive, and be what's lasting. And despite everything, in the end, I think it is. I think that's certainly the case coming out of our scene here. The truth has been averted. A lie continues. Poisonous repression takes place. But the first time you watch it, and the subsequent times you watch it, as Joel leaves, and Ellie looks down at the guitar, you are left with a warm feeling, despite what's come before and despite what comes after. Maybe the toxic relationships, the ones poisoned by lies, permeated by a great sense of mutual care and affection, are the warmest ones in the end. The Last of Us Part 2 is an ambitious game to say the least, and perhaps its most ambitious moves are the ones made in its beginning stages, with a lot of new characters being introduced and the old protagonists being killed off. This should be unnerving to the player, but it really isn't due to how the prologue is structured, with us starting off familiar with a soft recap scene that doubles as plot and character progression, with us playing as Joel one final time as he rides off into the sunset, and with us being treated to a satisfying immediate follow-up Joel and Ellie scene that's laid and rich and dense. It's a gentle immediate introduction to a not so gentle beginning portion of the game. What a game. And that's only the first 15 minutes. Goddamn.